everyone, I'm Colin with Remarks with Republicans. Today I'm talking with Dan Swanson, who's running for Illinois House District 71. We discuss his background, his experience, and the issues he sees as important. So let's dive right on in.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3,
Yeah. Whoa, hey.
Remarks with Republicans is starting right now. For those who may not know you, who is Dan Swanson? What led you to public service?
So I'm State Representative Dan Swanson, and public service has kind of been part of my whole life. From in the military for 27 and a half years, to the school board, I was on a Board of Education, Howard Board of Education for 12 years. I was on a county board for a couple years, and I was a superintendent for the Veteran Assistance Commission in Henry County, which meant I helped veterans take care of their needs, and then I ran for state office. So I tell people I serve my community on the Board of Education. I serve my county on the state board. I serve my nation in the military, and now I'm serving my state as a state representative. So what really drove me to it, I guess, has just always been the ambition to be a public servant. And I farm too. Throw that in.
You've worn many hats: farmer, veteran, legislator. How have those experiences shaped who you are today?
Well, I think each led into the other. I think farming taught me hard work. My grandpa, who was born in 1911, told the story that when the fair came to town, all the boys knew there'd be an opportunity for a job. And so the boys would go to town. The ringmaster had the boys get in a circle and turn their hands up. And he picked out the boys that had calluses because he knew they worked hard. And that's kind of what taught me about agriculture or life. To work hard, to always have a job. The military kind of helped teach me how to negotiate, how to work with people. And I think that helped set me up and prepare me to be a representative. I think the farming, hard work, the military, how to work with soldiers, how to lead people, how to negotiate, how to do those things, those skills, helped prepare me to work with legislators across the aisle, being able to negotiate, work with people who may not always agree with you, but be able to come to a compromise position.
What motivated you to run for office in the first place?
So when I was a superintendent for Henry County Veteran Assistance Commission, I had a Korean War veteran come into my office. He had 2 Purple Hearts and they were used in his belt when he needed assistance to pay medical bills. When I asked him, "Aren't you enrolled in the VA?" He didn't know he was eligible. I left the Army 3 different times. I retired once in January 2001, and I had to go through training to learn how to be a civilian. I left the Army, I went to Iraq in July 7, July 8, and I left the Army in July 8. I had to go through training to teach me how to relate back to the civilian world after being in combat. When I was and then from April 2010 to April 2013, I worked at the Rock Island Arsenal, and again I had to go through training to learn how to be a civilian. When I look and learn what my benefits are, when I look at that Korean War veteran, he was never taught how to be a civilian. He did not know his VA benefits. And that's what drove my passion and my desire to run for state office, thinking of that general who didn't know what benefits they had as a veteran.
How did your military service influence your approach to leadership and decision making?
You know, and that's a great question. I often reference that many legislators that pass legislation never think of what that second, third order effect of that law is going to cause. In the military, when we develop operations plans, we always had to think, if we do this, what's the enemy doing? Or if we do that, what can we expect the enemy not to do? And that's how I look at my colleagues in the aisle. Sometimes they write legislation and they forget that it's going to impact people. And it's going to impact lives. And is this the right impact we want on those lives for those people?
What lessons from the military carry over most into your work as a state representative?
I think the ability to communicate with people, being able to sit down and have discussions like this with you, just being able to talk with, in Springfield, or legislators will tell you, we're the best of friends. It's just that policy that we don't always agree with. And you've got to get by that policy and be able to know that, hey, this person has a family too. This person's trying to do what's right for their constituents. It's just we don't see right, R-I-G-H-T, the same as what each of us believe.
How important is accountability in government today?
Oh, it's very important. Accountability is, whether we're talking about the accountability of people that a state agency takes care of, for example, a state agency who takes care of the elderly. Are they doing a good job? Whether it's the Department of Aging, are they taking care of those aged Illinois civilians correctly, Illinois residents correctly in those nursing homes? Or whether it's accountability of dollars. Are those agencies accounting for the dollars correctly? So accountability, accountability is failure of accountability causes failure of state agencies, or failures of families, or failures of our own bank account.
What are the biggest issues facing your district right now?
I think if I would ask people in here, the biggest issue facing them is day-to-day life. How to pay property taxes is a big issue. How to pay their electric bills, how to pay their heat bills, how to pay insurance, how to make ends meet is the biggest issue facing people. I believe in my community and all communities. That's the biggest one throughout the district. I think the second one would be medical care. How am I going to get my medical care? If I see my medical premiums increase, how am I going to get those?
How do you balance representing local concerns while working within Springfield politics?
Well, that's another fine line. So just to share with you too, I tell people I live in the most educated district in Illinois because I have Blackhawk Junior College, I have Sandburg Junior College, I have Knox Private College, I have Monmouth Private College, I've got WIU, Western Illinois University here in McLean, and Spoon River College. So the policies that I see are important to higher education. Some of my constituents don't see that because they don't have college. So you really have to know your district to understand how to vote for it. So, that I think is important because, like I said, many of my colleagues, downstate, north, Chicago, whatever, don't understand my district because of that education. Additionally, I've got tremendous agriculture in my district, farming, and those type of things. And some of the legislators don't understand agriculture. Businesses. Some legislators may not have a business like we have throughout my whole district. And my district's 100 miles long, but 12 miles wide. Some of their districts are city blocks to city blocks. They don't quite understand why is it take him an hour and a half to get from one end of the district to the other? So, out here we look at fuel, the price of the fuel being high. Well, I tell people I change oil in my car as often as some people put gas in it because of the size of my district. And the policies that affect people who have to use public transportation up north compared to those of us who have to use our own privately owned vehicle to get around, the price of gas affects us tremendously. So it's those policies that affect rural Illinois compared to Chicago. Sometimes hard to impress upon my Chicago colleagues.
What accomplishment are you most proud of during your time in office?
I think just probably one of my biggest accomplishments, and believe me, this is not a brag or a boast, that I've been able to pass over 24 pieces of legislation during my time in the House. I serve as a chairman, as a Republican. I serve as chairman of the Veterans Committee. There are 59 committees, 49 chaired by Democrats and one by Republicans in that one. So there's a lot of accomplishments. I'm very proud to single out one. And those 34 pieces of legislation I've passed, most of them have been shared with me by constituents within my district. So I'm proud to have said that I listen to my constituents and they're to pass legislation.
What does a typical week look like for you during the legislative sessions?
One word sums that up: crazy. My day can start. Wednesday or Tuesdays we start, and Tuesday we go in session at noon, and may not get over, session may be short, but there's all the different activities and meetings after. I serve on a lot of committees, so a lot of committee hearings. There's not much what we call white time in my schedule. White time is when I can sit down and because I don't have my time. I have time for legislation. I have time to be in the chamber. I have time to be in committees. I have time for constituents to come visit me or some organization. It's just the 2, 3, 4, 5 days I'm there. It's just nothing but busy and hectic, but I love it.
What core Republican principles guide your decision making?
I believe in Christ. Faith is important to me. Family is important. I think those are the two main drivers. And honesty. We tell incoming freshmen the most important thing you have is your honesty. Once you give up your honesty, that core value, you become recognized as someone that can't be trusted. And when that happens, it makes for a tough career. So any type of legislation. Faith, family, honesty, being who I am. I like to think that since I've been in office, I haven't changed because that's just who I am.
How do you approach working with colleagues who may not share your views?
I accept it. I accept that they don't share my views because I've not walked in their shoes, so to them, I'm not sharing their views. To me, they're not sharing my views. And you have to accept that. You have to accept it. Not everyone's going to agree with you down there. There are 40 Republicans and 78 Democrats. There's times where even all the Republican friends I have don't always agree with me. And I accept that because their district is different than my district. So, I mean, it's just, you have to accept that. If you don't accept that, then again, you're going to be frustrated.
What issues do you believe Illinois must address immediately to secure its future?
We need to figure out the energy stuff. We're paying way too much for the energy because we've shut down some of our fossil fuel that were available. That we had coal plants online providing millions of megawatts of electricity to us on a daily basis or on a recurring basis that no longer is there. For having to import electricity from other states, and we import that electricity from other states, it's not as secure, it's not as reliable as our own. So I think we need to fix the energy problem. I tell people solar and wind do not equal security. Solar, wind, fossil fuel, nuclear energy provide for a secure America, a secure Illinois. And until we understand that we can't just go cold turkey and go to electric and solar, or solar and wind, that's what to me is the biggest fear for Illinois, I think, of a collapse in that. We're importing all the energy provided. We need to build our own energy.
How can Illinois remain competitive while still supporting working families and farmers?
Well, we need to deregulate more. We tend to regulate everything. You know, I talked about that second and third order effect. That's when it comes in. You know, taxes are passed. You know, they see that as being wonderful. We're going to have more money, so we do more things. Well, that more money is coming out of the pockets of taxpayers. And I think the individual constituents are better able to spend their money in Springfield. So that's when we talk about that. When I mentioned that second, third order effect, I think that's when it's going.
Why is it important for young people to understand how state government works?
Yes, that's who's going to control their life. They need to understand state government provides things, and state government expects things. Providing the services. And you know, some of the things that the state government provides are certainly necessary. Fixing our roads, providing financial services to those who need those financial services. And those come at a cost. Those costs include fuel tax, it comes with a income tax, it comes with those taxes. And I think the young people need to closely become a part of and understand government because they're going to be elected their officials. They're going to be electing their school board members. They're going to be electing their county board members. They're going to be electing those state representatives. They're going to be electing those senators, governors, the federal office, that federal legislators, presidents, all those different state attorney general, those leadership positions. That's what we need to understand how government works. Because if you're electing the Secretary of State, you want to have a candidate in there who understands one day I'm going to need to give a driver's license from the Secretary of State, so I want to put the best person in there that's going to provide that license, driver's license for me. So,
What advice would you give to students or young adults interested in public service?
I would tell them to start understanding local, run for a school board, run for county board, build up to a state representative, build up to be congressional, because I was on the Board of Education, as I said earlier. It taught me how to understand a budget. It taught me how to understand people management from the civilian workforce as opposed to the military side of this. It helps prepare you. It teaches you how to run for office, teaches you how to be a candidate, and then look at possibly county board, where you start with a bigger budget. You start understanding how committees work. Because most county governments work in a committee, just as we do in Springfield. I talked about those 50 different committees. That's how we understand legislation. It goes through the committee first. So I would encourage a young person not to think that they can run for Congress and they need to start at a local level, understand and build up. Just as any job, you start at start as a janitor and then someday work your way up to be the president of a corporation. Don't think you're going to walk into that president right away. So build your way up to it. I did school board, county board, and then up to state.
How can families encourage civic involvement at home?
You know, I think, so we say at home, so that means parents teaching their children. But maybe it's not in the house itself. Maybe you go out on your street as a family and you say, today, as a family, we're going to pick up all the trash on the street. You know, as a civic. Let's go to the park. Let's go play in the playground, but after you're done the playground, we're going to pick up the trash or maybe it's in the wintertime. Teach your kids to go, hey, you know, John over here, he's an elderly gentleman. Let's go scoop snow in his yard, out of his driveway. Teach them how to be a good civic member, how to be a good member of their community by helping others, whether it's picking up trash, scooping snow, maybe it's helping someone in the garden, you know, helping to do something in your community is part of that civic engagement.
What keeps you motivated during challenging times in public office?
Just looking, so I represent 170,000 people. That's a big burden. It's just such an honorable job, such a humbling job to think that you're put there to represent those people. And every time I walk into the Capitol, every time I sit down at my desk in the Capitol, it's just a humbling moment. And it's just that, you know, so many people sat here before me. Abe Lincoln didn't sit in my chair, but he was in the General Assembly. When you look at all these people who have gone before you, President Obama was sitting in my chair, he sat in the Senate. He went through the chamber. So it's just a humbling experience to be given the opportunity to do it.
What do you hope voters remember most about your service?
I hope they remember that I'm an honorable person. I hope they remember that the legislation I passed truly did help them in some way, shape, or form, whether they have Lyme disease, or whether they're a veteran that needed some assistance, or whether they were a son or daughter of a police officer who passed legislation of Scott's Law to help remind people to move over, or maybe it's someone who's got a family member in the fire department that I helped pass legislation to make their job safer, to give them the equipment they need to do their job. So, I mean, I hope they remember that my focus was always on better serving and better providing a day-to-day life for them. It's about them and not about me.
Early mornings or late nights?
Oh, early mornings or late nights. You know, yes. I'm not afraid to get up early in the morning and do long work. I start my day off very early, but I'm not one to go to bed early. I'm not a party or anything like that, but it just takes a while at nighttime to wind down. Iraq really changed my whole sleeping pattern. When I was there, I was up at early in the morning, and I get to work at 6:30, 7 o'clock, and I close my evening smoking a cigar about 11:30 at midnight with some other folks, and then go to my hooch and sleep until 5, and then back up getting ready to go. Yes. Early morning, late night. Yeah.
Springfield or home district days?
Home district days. And my favorite days at home are speaking in schools, speaking to kids. I enjoy talking to kindergartners, to high school students, college students. Those are my favorite times. Not that I get to a lot of paper, I get to see and meet a whole lot of people, but it's just shaping the youth that I really enjoy tremendously.
Farming or legislating?
Farming. I enjoy farming, but legislating is what people hire me to do. My relaxing days are sitting in the combine or sitting in the tractor. And as I sit there running that tractor combine, it helps me be a better legislator because I'm thinking about what we do to make things better.
Coffee or water?
Water.
One word to describe Illinois' future?
Illinois' future?
Yeah.
I think Illinois' got a bright future. Illinois has so much to offer. We've got greatest road networks, train networks. I mean, we've got Amtrak that comes right here through Macomb and goes through college student, you know. We have a great opportunities as a farmer for my corn with our ethanol plants that are available. We have the rail system that's available to move our crops. I think the future is bright. I think we may need to screw our head on just a little bit differently on some of the political decisions that are being made. I think we need to focus on keeping our young people in our Illinois schools so that make us even brighter future. We're losing too many young people to other states, to other colleges. I think once we get that figured out, I serve on higher education. We've been able to put more money towards college tuition to fund students so as to make us more competitive by staying in Illinois. So I think once we keep the brain trust in the brains of our young people in Illinois, we've got a bright future.
Best advice you've ever received?
The best advice I ever received was from Lieutenant Colonel Tom Bowman, Battalion Command. He said, Dan, I don't expect you to know everything, but I expect you to know who to go to for the answer. I thought that was tremendous advice, you know. As a young, I think I was second lieutenant, maybe the first lieutenant at that time. I've used that many times myself. You know. I don't know the answer to that question that constituent just called, but I know who I can call to get an answer for. It's all about, at that time, that was before we had the networking like we have today with Facebook and all these different social media stuff, social networks. This was a face-to-face. I didn't know the answer to some of the questions, so I didn't know who to call. I've always thought this would be good advice. Is that the great advice in my career? Calluses on your hand, what's that one, John?
Final question. Service over politics, yes or no?
Yes. Yeah, I believe it's important. You know, I tell people the work I do in Springfield matters as far as the state of Illinois. It's the service I provide to the constituents in my office that affects the 71st district, the people who live here.
Thanks for speaking with me.
It's been a pleasure, and you did a great job.
Thank you.
Great job. I appreciate it.